Motor Speedway, the venue for the opening round of the 2001 American Le Mans Series. When they came here in the height of the summer last year, it was 135 degrees of air temperature. For the first race of the 2001 series, a slightly more sensible 37 degrees Fahrenheit. And on pole position, the Audi of Dindo Capello and Tom Christensen. Capello, of course, shared last year with championship winner Alan McNish. On the front row, the new Panos LMP07 of Magnussen and Brabham. Their teammates in the older machine, Klaus Graf and Gualter Sales, the Brazilian, joining them in third place on the grid, ahead of Dorsey Schroeder and Andy Wallace in the privateer Audi R8. Fifth and sixth, row 3 of the grid. It's the second of the older LMP-style Panos, with Jay Cochran doing the qualifying duty, and alongside him, pole position for the car that won its first American Le Mans class win against the Vipers. Here in the heat of Texas last year, Johnny O'Connell moving over from the Panos team to share with pole position man Ron Fellows. Fellows taking the pole, and that is his career pole, and the site, of course, of their first win. The GT pole for Lucas Luhr and Sascha Maassen in their Porsche. That's Lucas Luhr's third in a row. The LMP 675 pole taken by Mel Hawkins, taken by Mel Hawkins of Scottsdale, Arizona, in the Lola B2K Nissan. That's the only P675, the smaller prototype class car in the field, and that car suffering with overheating problems already. Well, as you can see, no Oreca Team Vipers this year, but there are privateer Vipers and privateer Corvettes, and plenty of Porsches still in the GT class. Also, addition to the prototype class is the car that was being tested and never quite got round to being raced at all last year, and that's the champion Lola Porsche. Well, the champion Lola Porsche not making the trip to Texas, but they will certainly be in Sebring for the second round of the championship. And look at that, starting 22nd and last on the grid, the car that was in fact fastest in qualifying. Frank Biela and Emanuele Pirro had taken pole position on time in their Audi R8, but it was in post-race tech or post-qualifying tech that they fell foul of the regulations. Their under tray, which develops the downforce at the back of the car, was found to be too far off the ground, generating too much downforce. As a result, their times were disallowed. So it's the Capello and Christensen Audi that leads. The white car on the bottom side of the racetrack, that is Magnussen and Brabham in the new shape car. And alongside the black car, that is the Graf and Sales Panos, trying to go around the outside. Frank Biela starting from the back, and here he comes. That's the number 2 machine of Frank Biela, trying to work his way there past the 675 class Lola Nissan, which he does, and well up the GT field as well. He'll pass 8 cars in the first lap alone. Biela obviously hoping to start from pole position and run away, as Audi managed to do in the race last year, but not able because of that small indiscretion in tech. And that was just some few millimeters away from the regulation. There are the 2 Callaway Corvettes, I beg your pardon, the 2 Works Chevy Corvettes, which qualified in 6th and 7th place. And Biela firing his way up the field past one of the new shape BMW M3s. 2 teams running M3s here. The PTG team run by Tom Milner that we were used to seeing in last year's championship, but also have gone back from the prototype class, the Schnitzer BMW team. They're also running M3 cars, and they will be debuting their new M3 GTR at the 12 Hours of Sebring. Well, Tom Christensen and Dindo Capello, the Dane and the Italian, sharing this car. And of course, Christensen, a winner at Sebring last year in the 3-car Audi sweep. And Christensen will go to Sebring this year with Audi in last year's winning chassis, in the hope of becoming only the second man in 5 decades of racing at Sebring to take 3 consecutive wins in the 12 hours. 3 wins have been done, but 3 consecutive only once in history. And he will be hoping to be the second man to do so. Into the pits very early on, one of the second teams of Corvettes. the number 17 car is the Trinkler and Altenberg car. Owen Trinkler and Jeff Altenberg. Owen Trinkler owns the car, and that is a car they've been building up for 2 years. Originally they had intended to be racing in the 2000 series, but unable to make it, and at the moment running with a barely modified street stock engine. The engine builder hoping to get them a decent engine together in time for the Sebring 12 Hours. And here you're looking at JJ Lehto racing in the American Le Mans Series, not in the front-running BMW prototypes, with which he won races in '99 and led the points in 2000, but in the M3 machine, and he was chasing Christophe Bouchou for the class lead. In the LMP class, Magnussen back ahead of Graf in the Panos battle there, but here is one of the Callaway team Corvettes, and that's Vic Rice and Chris Lewis in the number 12 machine. Shane Lewis, beg your pardon, and Vic Rice in the number 12 machine in one of the Vipers, I'm having trouble with my words, the Corvettes entered by the Callaway team. They're different from the Works GMAC-sponsored GT3Rs. Johnny O'Connell here at the helm of the 3 car, which Ron Fellows put on pole position, and with which Ron Fellows battled Exhaustion and the Vipers to win in the 2000 race. But he's slowing, and the reason very obvious there, he's picked up a right rear puncture, and that will force him in for a very early pit stop, and that will blow their fuel and tyre strategy clear out of the water. Now then, Frank Bieler passing the 38 car, diving down the inside of the champion Porsche. Dorsey Schroeder sharing with Andy Wallace, and champions Audi rather. Champions Porsche, as we said, they tried to develop the car for racing last year and eventually gave up the Lola Porsche, and champion with one of last year's Audi R8s, so a very similar car to the one being run by Reinhold Jost for the Audi team. Well, in comes the 3 car, and the tyre technicians don't need to take much of a look at that to find out what the damage is. A spin for the 98 Porsche, and it wasn't just on their own that the Rick Polk and Kurt Wagner car was involved in that spin, because the BMW coming down the inside, and Rick Polk sharing with Kurt Wagner. Kurt Wagner, incidentally, the 1999 ALMS GT class champion. And down the inside went the 42 car, of course, the same number JJ Lehto and Jörg Müller had on their prototype class car last year for the Schnitzer team. 42 and 43 were their prototype numbers, and the 42 number carrying on with the Schnitzer team. So this Audi battle continuing out front, with the Panos taking the battle all the way. That's Jan Magnussen at the helm of the lead Panos, the white car, pushing Dindo Capello, and Magnussen and Brabham had some great dices with the Audis last year. Magnussen getting down the inside of the Porsche there. The Porsche goes the long way round, and Magnussen sliding through the chicane. Very dramatic moment indeed. And look at this, dramatic moments further round as they went inside the Trinkler and Altenberg Corvette, getting inside, having just run into the back of the Audi, and that's broken the it looks like one of the canard fins, yes indeed, off the front of the Panos, and could possibly have damaged the rear under tray of the Audi as well. We saw that in a number of front to rear collisions last year with Audi, BMW and Panos. Those kind of collisions almost inevitably involve some damage to the tunnels at the back of the car, as well as the nose fins on the front of the others. Well, let's count. No, it's only got one little canard fin on the right-hand side. You can see clearly there are 2 on the left-hand front. So Magnussen has lost a tiny little bit of right-hand front grip, still stays in second place, but the lead is being led, race being led at the moment by the Audi of Dindo Capello. Welcome back to the American Le Mans Series, and the Panos comes in for its first scheduled stop. Dave Price bringing the car to a halt. Out bails Jan Magnussen, and as the Dane struggles to get out of the narrow cockpit, It's David Brabham ready to get in, but trouble down at the chicane off the front stretch on the NASCAR oval. The 675 class Lola rocking on its belly, and yellow flags will come out. Panos being caught with a green flag pit stop, and everybody else will get a chance to stop surely under yellow. Well, the Hawkins Knight car bringing out the local yellow. They're not throwing a full course yellow, so Capello into the pits with the Audi is the message. Capello leads, and Frank Biela has now worked his way from last into second place. And the message is that Dindo Capello will be the first to pit as the race leader. Well, he eschews the opportunity to do it this time. Corvette continues, the 4-car of Kelly Collins and Andy Pilgrim. And the next lap round, in comes Dindo Capello. Now, the Reinhold Jost drilled Audi team were smooth, slick and efficient in pit stops during their debut year in the series in 2000. There's no reason to think that this will be any different. Capello is going to be double stinted. The question is, are his tyres? Engineer there downloading data. Fuel only at this stage, and of course until the fuel hoses come off, the engine must remain stopped and nobody else can touch the car other than the fueler. Now, no tyres. The tyres were ready, but they will go again on their first set of tyres. Dindo Capello with the over-rich mixture as he fires the engine up and squirts it up the pit lane on the limiter, of course, to keep the speed within the prescribed limit. And definitely slow it must seem as everybody howls past on the NASCAR D down into the first chicane. So in the end, Brabham and the Panos lucky not to lose out with that yellow flag incident. And look, Capello quickly up to speed as he gets out of NASCAR turn 2 and onto the backstretch. In now comes Frank Biela. Biela was in the lead, don't forget, as Capello had stopped ahead of him. So the two Audis both pitting from the lead in sequence. Again, the man with a fire extinguisher there, that's one of the regulations. And again, the Michelin engineer taking the measurements from the tyre to make sure that it's safe. In comes the 4-car, Kelly Collins and Andy Pilgrim. And in comes the 38 car, Dorsey Schroeder and Andy Wallace. It's Wallace who started the champion Lola Porsche. And a long fuel stop for the number 2 car. Frank Biela will stay in and will surely double stint his tyres. Snicks it into gear and away he goes. Well, his reaction there, instant, looking hard over his right shoulder, waiting for the moments that he heard that dry brake nozzle decouple, and away he went. And here is the distinct livery of the champion team. You couldn't mistake that car for anything else, could you, than a champion car. And Andy Wallace, again, like the two Works Josto Audis, staying in and double stinting, but not quite so quick away. Riding again with Dindo Capello in traffic now. Ahead of him, hey, it's an Audi, so there's been a change during the pit stops. And on board in the GTS class, you can see how quickly the prototypes get away on the banking and down these long NASCAR stretches. Well, this is the most recent addition to the American Le Mans Series in terms of rovals, the road course stroke oval layout, and this one best received of all, I think, really, in the 2000 series. The infield section not ridiculously tight, and it's a good, fast, open racetrack. Their only problem last year was the intense temperature, and that's why we're starting the race here. Incidentally, high knife, it said on the roll cage there of the Corvette. That was high to Chris Kneifel, who, a former Corvette member, has just been appointed in the chief steward job at CART for their Champ Car Series for the year, and has had to leave the Corvette team as a result. Here in the BMW, Hans Stuck. And there is the Corvette team, Johnny O'Connell and Ron Fellows sharing the 3-car. And there again above Ron Fellows' helmet is that high knife. Little message there to Chris Kneifel. They remember their roots, these guys. So the yellow flags for the debris that you saw, instigating the second set of pit stops. And then they go green for racing. The field nicely bunched again. The 51 Panos at this stage leading, the number 2 Audi in second place. 51 is the black car, Klaus Graf and Walter Salles, the German-Brazilian combination. And the Audis, look at that, battling with Brabham there, is the number 1 car. Don't forget that is Dindo Capello still at the wheel. Tom Christensen will do the final stint. In fact, the 50 car with David Brabham losing out just momentarily there. And the other Panos also in the mix, so too the champion, I'm going to say Lola Porsche here, but I do mean Audi. You have to forgive my incompetence there. The yellow car, incidentally, the Jay Cochran and Richard Dean car, that's another of the Panoses. Richard Dean, of course, raced just once in the American Le Mans Series 2 years ago in the British Championship entry. The Cintura with its Judd V10 that came briefly to Laguna Seca, I think it was, that he came to at the end of the season in '99. And actually, if memory serves, the car may not even have raced that far. So Richard Dean taking his first full season start as a works driver here. And there is Brabham in that very distinctive new shape Panos. Well, if the old one looked like an aircraft carrier with its big flat expanse of deck out front covering the front engine, then the new car, well, what does that look? It looks like the Alien, actually, shrink-wrapped over the suspension. It's almost as if they put the body on damp and just let it sink down around the components so that there was no give or take. Well, that car on the tail of the champion Lola and the champion racing car with Andy Wallace at the helm. There he is right in the middle of that shot, and Wallace, of course, a long-time sparring partner of David Brabham, not least in the British Formula 3 Championship back in the 80s. And ahead of them, Richard Dean and Jay Cochran's car, the 49 car, the yellow Panos, but it's still the black machine that leads, Klaus Graf and Walter Salles, and the 2 LMP1s, the older Panos, well known. The teams have got good fuel mileage and good performance from them. Never quite managed to really convincingly put the Audis in their place in 2000, but they did have several very good efforts where they were only let down by a couple of component failures. Walter Salles at the moment holding off the champion Audi, but Wallace is right on his wheel tracks, hot on his heels, and Wallace with, of course, huge sports car racing experience in a bewildering array of different machinery. Walter Salles, fresh from single-seater racing in the Champ Car Series. And Wallace throws the Audi down the inside, and he must be reveling in the handling of this car. Wallace, after testing the champion Audi, saying what a sensation the car was to drive. And bowled over, not by the outright grunt of the engine, but he said by its phenomenal torque. It really is not the most outright brake horsepower powerful engine out there, he said, but the twin-turbo Audi V8 engine has got enormous pulling power, perhaps even as much as the thundering V8s of the Panos LMP1 machines. Of course, the new Panos, the 07 with its purpose-built 4-litre V8 racing engine, not the stock block-derived engine. You're looking here into the GT class, of course, still predominantly the domain of Porsche's 911 GT3R. And this year, the official works Porsche supported entry is the Alex Job Racing team, who won the championship 2 years ago with Kurt Wagner. And last year, it was Dick Barber Racing that won the championship. Their GT cars soundly beating the BMWs, the new BMW for 2000 of the PTG team. And now they've got a different set of M3s to worry about, in addition with the Schnitzer cars. Oh, and out fumbling there at the chicane. The black car getting into trouble. Let's have a look at this. And just braking too late, missing the point of turn-in completely. And so the lead Panos hands over that advantage, and into the lead goes the number 2 machine, Emanuele Pirro, having a chance at leading in this middle stint in the car. And you can see in the top Still Andy Wallace in 4th place, going strongly as Sasha Masson leads the GT class in his Porsche. Well, the BMW is taking the battle to Porsche in the GT class. In the GTS class, it has been the Works Chevy Corvettes that have ruled the roost in qualifying and continue to do so in the race. And another look again at that, way in deep there, desperately late on the brakes, trying to hold off that Audi, and in the end just overstepping the mark, offline and too late on the brakes, and Emanuele Pirro going, thank you very much indeed, and snatching that little chance to grab the lead. On board now with the Chevy Corvette as Pirro now drops the lead, spins the number 2 Audi out. Well, what a remarkable mistake by the veteran Italian. That's not the kind of driving you expect from Emanuele Pirro, especially when he's just been handed a lead. And now here comes Andy Wallace, and Wallace will try and get around the recovering Audi. Goes to the outside, Pirro defends, goes to the inside, Pirro defends, and Pirro, with mud on the tyres and mud on the radiators, just scrabbles round to hang on to that one. And he felt the pressure immediately from Andy Wallace and will continue to do so undoubtedly. Let's have a look at the replay. This is off the backstretch and around the outside of the Viper Racing USA Corvette he comes. Not enough room. Well, it was not a mistake where he spun the car, but a mistake where he allowed the car to be spun by trying to get around the nose of the Corvette. Such is the closing pace and such is the phenomenal braking ability of the prototype cars that they do take phenomenal liberties with the slower machinery, and they normally get away with it. The Viper Racing team, Tom Weikart and Joe Ellis, now coming into the pits with what I think will probably turn out to be a right front puncture. Yeah, look at that, down on the right front, and there's nothing left on the rim there. Get well, Justin, is their message on their windscreen strip. I wonder if that's a reference to British racing driver Justin Bell. Oh, and massive impact on the backstretch for the number 2 Corvette. And that will absolutely destroy the car. Well, that is the Kelly Collins driven car, and that is a big, big impact. Kelly Collins clearly okay, and that's the main thing, obviously, in any situation. Memories of Daytona all too vivid in the American racing fraternity. And look how far Collins has come with no front wheels on the car off that wall. Well, we have to see that in replay. Collins limping away, and I don't wonder at all that he will. Damaged. Is that a right rear blowout that causes it? Let's go on board. Yes, no question about it. Right rear blowout, loses all control, and a passenger in the wall at what must have been the sharp end of 180 miles an hour, and that is a big, big hit by anybody's standards. Well, Kelly Collins, as we saw there, limping away, and lucky to be so as well. Phenomenal frontal impact that the Corvette survived there, and that will certainly give great heart to the engineers at Chevrolet. Nothing they could have done to prevent the blowout, but the car stood up to the crash remarkably well. And Kelly Collins, a passenger from the instant that tyre let go. And there is what's left of the offending rubberware. And who knows, perhaps a little piece of debris. There have been a number of collisions, a number more off-track excursions, and there you see more debris strewn all over the racetrack from that huge impact. Well, it should have torn off razor-sharp shards of glass fibre, bits of aluminium, bits of steel, fractions of alloy wheel and everything else strewing the racetrack. You can see already one of the vet team members there, the GM crew, urgent need now to find out why that happens, to rule it out as a freak incident or not, as the case may be. Christensen leads in prototypes, Corvette in GTS, Porsche in the GT class. Back at Texas Motor Speedway, the American Le Mans Series race continues. A full course yellow after a phenomenally heavy impact for the number 4 Corvette. Fortunately, no injury at all to Kelly Collins. Now they're back with green, and it's Audi first and second. On board with the number 6 BMW M3 of Boris Said and Hans Stuck in the middle of the lineup, and just watch the GTS and the prototype cars peel up high onto the banking and cruise past everybody else. 8th in GTS for Ron Fellows, came in to the pits from the lead and has gassed the car ready to go. And Fellows, who won a crushingly hot and devastatingly difficult race here in 2000 against the might of the Oreca Vipers. The first win for Corvette, having narrowly failed to win the previous race at Mosport Park, his home track, would be desperate to win here again in the GTS class. Fellows breezed by there by Eric Messler and Terry Borchella. Borchella, a long-time sparring partner of Fellows, as they went past in the American Viper racing car. And looking back again, there is the PTG BMW. And that is the number 6 Stuck and Said machine. And here comes the yellow Panos. Look at this, flying by. And that is the Richard Dean machine that he shares with Jay Cochran. And here comes another of the protos. And that is the champion Audi screaming by. Walter Salas in 4th, Dorsey Schroeder 5th, Richard Dean in 6th place. There he is in the yellow car. Sasha Masson leading the GT class. And there, the Andy Wallace and Dorsey Schroeder car with Dorsey at the wheel. Wallace doing the opening 2 stints, and Schroeder now giving the car free rein as he looks to the inside and gets the move put in on Richard Dean. And now the fight back continues. Richard Dean is trying to stay on his tail, but Schroeder puts a Porsche between them. Richard Dean in his first drive for Panos here at Texas, making sure he makes no mistakes. That's the most important thing, I'm sure, upmost in his mind. Well, leading the field is the car that started on pole position, Dindo Capello and Tom Christensen. And in second place, the car that was fastest in practice, but their time's disallowed because of that illegal or marginally illegal rear diffuser, Frank Bieler and Emanuele Pirro. First and second for Audi. Situation normal then, carrying on where they left off from last year's series. And here is the Dane on board, onto the backstretch out of NASCAR Turn 2, down into this infield section. Nicely laid out, nice infield area. It's demanding, but it's not a silly Mickey Mouse course, and most importantly, it's well grassed on the inside as well. No showers of gravel preceding and following every car on and off. You can see small puddles of water from the overnight rain still around and about on the edges of the track. But clear skies greeting the races for this opening round of the American Le Mans Series 2001. And recovering after a spin, Bob Wallach and Johnny Molam's car. That's the Peterson Motorsports car. And Johnny Molam sharing with the veteran Bob Wallach. Molam, of course, racing in the championship last year as a privateer. Wallach was with the Dick Barber racing team as one of the factory-supported entries. And again, the JJ Leto BMW involved. Leto and Jörg Muller. And again, I have to say, I think through the window that looked as though that may have been JJ there doing the disrupting of the Porsche's natural line through the corner. Can't quite see if that was brilliant Bob at the wheel, but it may well have been, judging from the flash of white on top of the helmet. Wallach at that stage, or this car at that stage, second in the GT class, incidentally. And continuing strongly on their way. Now, not the hugest field, only 22 starters here in Texas. When they get to Sebring, though, it really will be a very strong field indeed. Saturday, March the 17th. A week from today is the 12 Hours of Sebring, and at the former B-17 base in Florida. And we'll be showing you that race on March the 25th. The time for your diaries is currently slated to be 5:45 p.m. Central European Time, 4:45, March the 25th. But again, do check your listings magazines. Of course, with our full program of live sports, occasionally some events do get moved. So keep an eye on CFAX and in your listings magazines. But scheduled at the moment for March 25th. And continuing our Sunday American motorsport themes. Well, back to the action, and here you see suddenly the champion car starting to slow. And the Audi in trouble, having run so strongly all the way through. This is the battle for 4th and 5th. Now, is that a problem for Dorsey Schroeder, chasing Klaus Graf in the black Panos, or was that just an error? With the sequential gearbox on the Audi, it's hard to imagine that he's just missed a gear. He may have a bit of electricity problems, or it may be something a little bit more fundamental. Well, still at speed, you can't hear the engine note of the Audi over the thundering NASCAR-style exhaust note of the old LMP1 Panos ahead of him. Klaus Graf sharing the car with Gualter Sales. And in the champion car, this is Dorsey Schroeder, who took over from Andy Wallace, who double-stinted the first 2 segments of the race. Schroeder then fit to go through to the end, but is his Audi. Dave Mirage, disappointed to have struggled in '99 with the GT1 Porsche, which by that stage was past its race-by date, and even more disappointed last year not to have been able to get the Lola Porsche to work at all for the prototype class. Now he's got an Audi, and it seems to be working well. On board the BMW then, and this of course one of the new BMW Motorsport cars, and right behind it one of the PTG cars. And a big lock up there as they go head-to-head on brakes. Bill Oberlin and Nicholas Jonsson, the 10 car, and of course the 42 car, JJ Müller and JJ Later and Jörg Müller. Bill Oberlin racing for the Schnitzer team last year as a teammate to JJ. This year racing for Team PTG, head-to-head against him. And the 2 cars built by 2 different teams, but as you'd expect from the same basic starting point, looking remarkably similar. How the new BMW Motorsport M3 GTR will shape up is really anybody's guess, but we'll find out at Sebring. Now, in for changing a flat-spotted tyre is Jörg Müller. Müller had double-stinted the tyres on his M3, but because of that late-braking flat spot, that tactical advantage gone, and forced in to change with less than half an hour of the race left. And the 4th place Panos, the black car of Gualter Sales, once more under intense pressure from the champion Audi. Look at this, in traffic and going around the outside of the PTG number 6 machine. And that's the Boris said Hans Stuck car as ever, staying with the same numbers as last year. Different lineup in the 10 car, but Stuck and said in the 6 car. This year, of course, the 10 car we've just seen, Bill Oberlin and Nicholas Jonsson, the Swede, got his first drive for the PTG team as a last-minute addition to the crew for Adelaide. Grabbed his helmet, and in fact, an interesting story, Jonsson's wife persuaded him to spend a financial gift that they'd been given 6 months earlier as a wedding present on getting himself to Australia to drive as an unpaid chance for the PTG team, and that's rewarded itself with a full drive for Tom Milner's crew this year. And look at this, again, Dorsey Schroeder's Audi looks to be running well as he puts the move in there to take 4th place in the prototype class, away from Klaus Graf in the Panos. Well, plenty of racing going on between Audi and Panos there, and at the front of the field as well, as the Brabham car battles with the 2 Works Audis. And this race really fulfilling all the hopes that Dave Mirage of Champion Racing had for the Audi when he managed to buy one from the factory for the American Le Mans Series. The other one of last year's cars, incidentally, coming to the European Le Mans Series at Donington Park. That will be the first race of the European Le Mans Series, being run by Stefan Johansson's new team, based in Britain, and sponsored by Gulf Oil. Yes, Gulf Oil celebrating their 50th racing anniversary. Or is it 40th? I can't recall. It's a major milestone in any way. And the car undoubtedly going to look fabulous in those historic blue and orange Gulf Oil colours. And that will be a real treat for British motorsport fans, the American Le Mans Series at Donington Park, and a lot of the British drivers in the series really looking forward to racing on home turf for the first time since Silverstone last year, being able to put on a good show. And for the rest of them, well, another chance. The American Le Mans Series have been very good at this. By design, I don't know, or by sheer chance, perhaps, but they have been very good at any rate at introducing their drivers, American and international, to a wide variety of new tracks, and indeed old tracks like Mosport and hopefully like Mont Tremblant in Canada, which are supposed to be the Canadian back-to-back races mid-season, which many drivers will never have raced on, have heard of perhaps and read reports about races at, but will never have seen. And for a lot of the Americans, the chance to come to Silverstone last year, the home of the British Grand Prix, and to Donington Park this year, another historic racetrack, one not to be missed. Final fuel stops then for Emanuele Pirro. Frank Biela ready in the background, but not going to be needed here. Biela good to go. Pirro rather good to go. Biela watching just in case. And you can see also in the shade there, right behind him, Reinhold Joost in the black jacket, just being obscured by a crewman, watching his stopwatch on his wristwatch to see how long the stop is, and also Tom Christensen there watching just to see how the sister car to his machine is going. So the number 2 car heading back out. And again, double stinting their tyres. Here is the champion Audi. They really are having a great race. The first privateer Audi and the champion racing team from Pompano Beach in Florida doing a great job with it. Now in comes the number 1 machine, race leader. Again, Reinhold Joost in the background. So will they double stint their tyres as well? I said it was Tom Christensen watching, it wasn't, it was Dindo Capello obscured in the shade. This is Tom Christensen at the wheel of the number 1 car. And as the Audis go in, a different fuel schedule means that Brabham leads for Panos. 20 laps to go though. Can the Panos make it the whole way? Well, Tom Christensen, Emanuele Pirro and the Audi team will hope not. And if the Panos team know for certain, then they're playing their cards very close to their chest. Brabham again in the lead of the race, and with a chance perhaps to take a maiden victory for the new Panos in only its 2nd race. The question is, can he do it? Panos leads from the Audis. Join us for the denouement after this. David Brabham leading into the closing stages of the opening round of the American Le Mans Series at Texas Motor Speedway. Well, the question is, Brabham on a different fuel strategy to the 2 Audis that previously led. Both of them have stopped, and we know that they're good to go the distance. Is the Panos. Just 5 minutes left in the race, and Brabham out front. He's got a healthy lead if he can go the whole way. But it's a big if. And the new Panos, with its as yet not fully developed chassis or 4-litre engine, is still very much an unknown quantity in terms of just what the team can wring out of it in economy. Based on what we've seen of it so far, Brabham is deep into wish territory, hoping to go all the distance here. The car has not been able to match the Audis in terms of fuel economy. Brabham, well, what's he hoping for now? Praying for a full course yellow for the rest of the race, perhaps, to allow his few litres of fuel to take him all the distance. And that may be what's required for the Panos to take its first win. The LMP 01, The car that they raced all last year, right up until Adelaide, still running strongly behind, but this new car, the 07, which David Brabham and Jan Magnussen have had all weekend, going strongly. And here maybe is their chance, the 10 car of Niklas Jonsson with a right rear puncture, shedding rubber, and of course steel carcass from the tyre all over the place, and bits of carbon fibre bodywork being ripped off the BMW as he's on the infield, so his tyre's blown on the banking. Lucky to get away with that one. We saw what happened to Kelly Collins in the number 4 Corvette when he had a tyre blow on the banking. Now, Brabham has come round behind him and through all that debris. Will he be okay? Or will his tyre have picked up a puncture? A little piece of debris now could spell not just the end of his race, but really disaster. And Nick Jonsson, the Swede, struggling round in the 10 car, hoping to make it back to the pits, get a new tyre and finish this race as strongly as they can. Phil Oberlin and Jonsson having a good race in that car. And Brabham goes round once more, continuing past the pits. Audi have been doing their sums, and so too have the Panos team. Reinhold Joost with a wry smile on his face as Brabham goes past again, leading his 2 Audis, because they've done their fuel economy run figures, and they don't believe that the Panos can go the whole distance. And they're right. Into the pits comes David Brabham. It'll be a splash and dash, but he will have to concede the lead, surely. Yes, here comes the lead Audi. Over the start-finish line, and into the lead goes the Audi as Brabham takes on those precious few litres. Jan Magnussen standing on the wall there, watching it all happen, and these are tantalisingly long seconds for Brabham. Just as long indeed as those that it'll take him to get back out past that end of the speed restriction. So now, back out front, the number 1 car, where they started, Dindo Capello and Tom Christensen's Audi, number 1 on the grid, and number 1 in the race. And there is Brabham, chasing hard now, but surely no chance of a win. Dindo Capello there on the right, Reinhold Joost on the left. Dindo, you're on telly. I don't want to see that, he's saying. Let's see what time we've got left. Well, just minutes left in the race. And now, for Capello, the anxious times waiting, as we've seen so often last year when Alan McNish started the race, sharing with Dindo, where he'd be standing on the pit wall, chewing what was left of his fingernails down to the knuckles, watching Capello eke out the final few moments in a closely fought finish. Well, this one now, not going to be closely fought. It looked as though it may have been half an hour from the end, but the Panos fuel strategy not able to carry them all to the way to the end in the lead that they had hoped for. Not getting the yellow flag brakes that they wanted. And now Jay Cochrane's car, that's being driven by Richard Dean in the closing stages, not likely to hold up the Audi, who put them a lap down. But a very good run indeed for Cochrane and Dean. A lap down they may be, but still in 5th position and comfortably ahead of the GTS class. So Capello and Christensen fastest in the qualifying and leading the race into the closing stages. Well, nothing left now for Dindo Capello to do but sit and watch and enjoy, if he can, watching Tom Christensen on the TV monitors in the pits or on the data monitors. The GTS leader, Ron Fellows and Johnny O'Connell, teamed together for the first time this year in the Chevy Corvette. And O'Connell, who finished his 2-year stint at Panos, a dispirited and disappointed man. The relationship with the American team, he felt, never really flowered as he had hoped that it would do. And now, he was saying in Adelaide when he told us about the deal, he said, These guys at Corvette, all right, it's a GTS car, it's not a prototype, he said, but they really want me. They want me to race for them. It was a limited program to start with. It looks like becoming less limited now. 23, the Lucas Luhr and Sascha Masson car. We've got to get used to another new colour scheme for Alex Job Racing. They are this year's favoured works Porsche team. Lucas Luhr and Sascha Masson in the 23 car, and Randy Pobst and Christian Menzel in the 22 car. And those cars running first and second in the GT class. The class leader, the 23 car here, running 8th on the road. A fine performance from them. 7th ahead of them is the only GTS car ahead of them, and that's the Fellows and O'Connell Corvette we've just seen. Of course, the 4 car going out in that lurid accident on the out of NASCAR turn 4 on the front stretch, but glad to report no injuries to Kelly Collins. And then the closing stages now for Dindo Capello and Tom Christensen. Teammates Frank Bieler and Emanuele Pirro in second place behind them. David Brabham and his teammate will have to take third place. Jan Magnussen, as final last-minute stages spin for Christophe Bouchou and Anthony Lazaro's Kelly Moss Motorsport 911. Bouchou will be trying to combine the American Le Mans Series races with his FIA GT Challenge. There you can see Dr. Wolfgang Ulrich on the left-hand side of the picture, watching in the closing stages with Reinhold Joest and Dindo Capello. And the Audi team now on for their 9th consecutive American Le Mans Series victory. Still some way to go to tie the record, though. That's set by the Oreca team. Finished at Texas here last year. It was 12 straight. The very first race they started in the American Le Mans Series yielded GTS class victory, and they won every race then in their category up until Texas last year, when Chevy broke their duck and broke the monopoly of the Oreca Viper team. Well, Audi now on their 9th straight here in Texas. Still some way to go, as I said, to match, if not beat, that record. They'll need to win in Sebring, at Sears Point and Portland just to match the record. And again in August, mid-August it'll be, before we get to Mosport, where they could possibly go on and break the record with a 13th straight win. But that is half a season away, and that really would be counting chickens. Certainly the opposition to Audi in the prototype class, it is fair to say, I think, is stronger than for most of the Viper Oreca team's run of successes in the GTS class. A lot of races they were up against just one other Porsche. And it wasn't until Chevrolet started their campaign in all earnest last year that they really had serious opposition. And now the Oreca team, of course, withdrawn to go prototype racing in England. GTS is the domain of Chevy's Corvette. The prototype class, still, it would seem, the domain of Audi. But the bare result, Audi, and then the best of the panels cars, probably not a fair indicator of how competitive the race has been. The champion Audi in 4th place. The Klaus Graf and Gualter Sales Audi, the panels rather, the older machine, in 5th place ahead of teammates Jay Cochran and Richard Dean. So 3 Audis and the 3 panels cars in the top half dozen. But retirement, I'm afraid, we saw them earlier on the underbelly, stuck in a chicane. The LMP 675 car of Mel Hawkins and Steve Knight. Their car boiling away, and they will have some serious cooling system work to do before they go to Sebring if they're to hope to even finish in their class, never mind win it. Well, around this distinctive banking comes Dorsey Schroeder. What am I talking about? Comes Tom Christensen. Dorsey Schroeder will do so in the champion Audi for 4th place, but it's Tom Christensen who wins. Dindo Capello on the pit wall, the other driver in the car, and it's a pole position and victory weekend for the number 1 Audi.
It's very nice, it's beautiful, but I tell you honestly, we didn't expect to win here, because honestly the car number 2 was quicker than us, and we had some problem in our car, but we got also good luck, very good luck in this race, and at the end we won.
Well, I think to put the race down to pure luck for Capello and Christensen is really underplaying their part in the operation, but it was 1-2 for Audi from the new panels in 3rd place, the private champion Audi in 4th position. GTS victory to Ron Fellows and Johnny O'Connell in the surviving Works Corvette from the pair of Alex Job cars in 8th and 9th place, who won the GT class. And the best of the BMWs, Boris Said and Hans Stuck in 10th position. The BMW Motorsport car, the Schnitzer car, in 12th place with JJ Leto and Jörg Müller. And there you can see further down the order the rest of the cars. And the moments of the weekend, perhaps not one that Kelly Collins will want to go through again too soon, but dramatic pictures of his high-speed accident, and he walked away from that one. Victory then in the opening race for Audi, but an American Le Mans series for 2001 that promises more than just German four-ringed domination. Stay with us on Eurosport and follow its progress. Till then, bye-bye.